CockFM Radio. It's all about you.
Hello there, you're listening to CockFM Radio Shagam. A very lovely morning to you. And thanks for joining us today, Friday, the 5th of May, 2023. And what a way to wrap up the week as we bring you today's edition of the Headliners on CockFM Radio. My name is Olufemi Peters. Today we're going to be looking at the stories making the rounds on the front pages of our national dailies. We're going to be looking at The Punch, The Guardian, The Nation, Daily Trust, Daily Independent, Nigerian Tribune, The Sun, Vanguard, as well as Daily Times this Friday morning. And now we start off with the Guardian newspaper. Today, Friday, May 5th, 2023. Study routes to Japa. Over $4 billion spent on overseas education in 8 years amid poor funding, neglect of public schools. That is the big story on the cover of the Guardian newspaper. That story is on pages 4 and 5. Apologize, compensate for colonization. Aborigines tell King Charles III. Fresh orders for air cargo as SAHO, NAHCO raise charges by 100%. Tinubu promises to fight corruption, protect judges from vices. Reps ignore outrage. OK Buhari's 23.7 trillion naira extra budgetary spending. Those are the other stories on the cover of The Guardian today. Moving on now to The Nation newspaper. The big story, outburst on inauguration. Onoyekon comes under fire. Senior lawyers knock cleric for questioning president-elect swearing in. DHQ, nothing will stop May 29 event. That is a big story on The Nation today. Adamawa wreck, others get bail, declaring Binani not wrong. President-elect promises judicial reform. Judges' welfare a priority. House OK's 1 trillion naira loan for federal government. 70% of private school teachers in Southwest unqualified. Accept tribunal verdict. Gowon tells Atiku, Obi, others. Those are the other stories on the cover of The Nation. And now let's look at the cover of Nigerian Tribune today. The cover story for the Nigerian Tribune says, our ordeal, returnees from Sudan recount. Our ordeal, returnees from Sudan recount. 4 aircraft conveying about 400 returnees being expected. Federal government mobilizes 2 Nigerian airlines, Sudanese local airline. No Nigerian who wishes to come home will be left behind. That's according to Humanitarian Affairs Minister. Blames third-party vendors for glitches. That story is on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune today. Now, very quickly, let's give you a rundown of some other big stories or some other stories on the cover of Nigerian Tribune. 70% of private school teachers in Southwest unqualified to teach. That's according to the TRCN. I will support education until I leave planet Earth. Afe Babalola says reps want dead voters removed from INEC register. APC crisis. Lukman writes Adamu. NWC apologizes for embarrassing party leadership. Confirms withdrawing suit against the national chairman and secretary. All election petitions should be decided before inauguration of government on Onoyekon. Gunmen kill 3 policemen, cut away arms in Anambra. No cause for concern over May 29 inauguration. That according to the DHQ. Returnee students recount ordeal in Sudan and Egypt. We thought we would die, they declare. Federal government promises 100,000 naira each to evacuees. That's the big story on today's edition of Daily Sun, and you'll find that story on page 6. Another interesting one on the cover of the Daily Sun today is Nigeria's unity non-negotiable, says Tinubu vows to make corruption in judiciary unattractive. Troops kill 30 terrorists, apprehend 48 in North Central, Northwest. Polls. President's inauguration before tribunal's judgment makes no sense. Onoyekon. NAFDAC bans promotion sales of breast milk substitute in health facilities. Arewa youths accuse NLC president of plotting against handover. And now we look at the Vanguard newspaper. Escape from Sudan. With gunfire all over, we thought we would never see home again. Returnees tell tales of woes. Now that is the big story on the Vanguard newspaper today. And pictures of some of the evacuees from Sudan are on the front page of the Vanguard. And very quickly now we move on to the Punch newspaper today, Friday the 5th of May 2023. The big story, May 29 handover. Again, military warns saboteurs. Gowon counsels petitioners. Threats to new president's inauguration will be promptly dealt with, says Defense Headquarters. Kemo knocks on Onoyekon for saying Tinubu should not be sworn in before tribunal verdict. That story is on page 2 of the Punch today. Federal roads. Federal government pays state 859.7 billion naira in 8 years. Government agencies, military or electricity firms. That's according to the Senate. Reps raise Buhari's extra budgetary spending to 23.7 trillion naira. 70% Southwest private school teachers unqualified, according to TRCN. 25-year-old dredging firm worker drowns in Lagos River, Sudan. Second batch of stranded Nigerians arrived today. Now you'll find all of this on today's edition of the Punch newspaper. And now today's edition of Daily Trust. The cover story says, may Nigeria never experience war. Sudan returnees pray. We slept in the open for 8 days. About 3,000 Nigerians still stranded. More aircraft needed for evacuation. That's according to the federal government. That's the big story on the Daily Trust today. And now, Daily Independent. How I will tackle corruption in the judiciary by Tinubu explains why he said I owe Wike nothing. That is the cover story on today's edition of Daily Independent newspaper. And now we're going to be wrapping up today's edition of the headliners on CockFM Radio with a review of the Daily Times newspaper, where the cover story says Onoyekon Tinubu's cap in war of words over inauguration of president-elect. Onoyekon Tinubu's camp in war of words over inauguration of president-elect. Army warns politicians against Scotland handover. Now let's give you some of the stories on the Daily Times. Sudan crisis, evacuees return recount ordeal as federal government gives them 100,000 each. APC ratifies suspension of Orji Kalu, Onyema, Nnamani, others. Military recovers huge arms and ammunition in fight against terrorists. NDDC proposes 2.28 trillion naira 3 years consolidated budget. And now that's how we call it a wrap on today's edition of the Headliners, and it is also how we say goodbye to this week, and of course we welcome the weekend. I remain your host Olufemi Peters till I come your way again next week. Stay tuned to CockFM Radio. For more info and updates, you can visit our social media platforms via CockFM Radio Live on Facebook, CockFM on Twitter, CockFM Radio Live on Instagram, and CockFM Radio Live on YouTube. Many thanks for listening. Do enjoy your weekend.
CockFM Radio. It's all about you.